since we were
81.
Yeah, on the
Finals,
football specials
yeah.
and everything, and
go back a long way.
you were a punter, and I was selling the pies and sausage rolls and everything like that.
Yeah.
And since then, you've, not that I doubted it for a second, but you've gone on to reach a personal achievement in the last couple of weeks. So just explain to our listeners your personal achievement.
Okay, so as of the 22nd of April, it was 30 years since my last miss of a competitive game watching Manchester City.
Home and away.
Home and away, domestic. Now, there is one little fly in the ointment, which was the Moscow game behind closed doors, which obviously I didn't attend, and I'm aware that you were there. Some of my friends did attend it and were thrown out subsequent to that. But I've been told to forget about that. Paying public couldn't get in, so I'll strike it off the record book if I can.
Because I've known you for such a long time, I don't mind admitting that I tried to find a way to get you into that game.
And I thank you for that. I know you did.
which was very genuine, but the BBC, who I worked for at the time, wouldn't allow me to take an extra person in, and you could have been my sort of sidekick for the night.
And to be fair, Ian, there was 500 of us, I think, wanted to attend that game. I think that was what the turnout would have been. I was given the option via a back door, which doesn't sound surprising where UEFA are concerned. It had cost me £300, but my overriding factor was, well, why should I get in and 499 other City fans can't? So I was I'd made peace with myself that it was the right decision not to take the route that kind of sums up UEFA for me.
Well, I was going to say, of all the people to boo UEFA's anthem, because people ask all the time, why do City fans boo the anthem? And that's not the only reason, but actually that CSK Moscow game and the example you've just given is part of it, isn't it?
It's a very personal thing. I think if you look at the history of UEFA games in the past when teams have been bad for one reason or another, UEFA have normally gone down the channel of rearranging the game into a neutral country, and there was no impact at all on Manchester City, the club, the fans, and yet we were punished equally for something that we had no hand in. And really, it's kind of wrong. Men in suits playing God is how I call it, and I stand by that.
The irony, of course, is that I was in that game, and there was a crowd in the game that was made up mainly of supposedly corporates or people associated with CSK Moscow, but there were a lot of ordinary fans there. And it hurt me. I'm a fan as well as being a journalist, but it hurt me as much on behalf of people like you, and not just you, but other fans.
Absolutely.
As it did
the 500
for any other reason.
Would have been there had we been, given access to it. So it does rankle, but it's life. I've got over it now, and the support of my wife as well. I'd like to add that, because without Jane Riley, none of this would have been possible. So I owe her a bigger debt than anything that I ever achieved.
Where does it's funny me asking you this question, because I could ask it of myself, but where does this obsession, this passion, this absolute determination through presumably illness and having to work around work, that you have to be at every game? Where does it come from?
I don't know where it comes from, but all I can explain to you is it's kind of a comfort blanket almost. It's the pressure of life is such that life's faster and everybody needs an outlet for it. Some of the outlets that people do are legal and some are illegal. Mine happens to be an obsession with the football team that I've supported since
Which is legal, isn't it? Let's get that right.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But and also I think for me, when times were hard, it kind of taught me, certainly we have humility, and that's one thing that I must stress, that wherever we go with the club, we must retain that humility, because without it, for me, you become the big corporate entity and you lose the soul and the face of what Manchester City is all about.
You wear, I don't know if it's got it on tonight, but you wear a lot a Jerry Gow shirt.
I have
it isn't Aguero on the back. That is an example of what you're talking about, isn't
absolutely. it? Absolutely. Jerry, I happen to know his son Chris, who still comes up to the games, travels up from Somerset with his family. So Manchester City's ingrained into that family just as much as you or I, anybody else in this room. And he personified really what Manchester City are about. He came in when times were hard, and we had had no credibility, and Jerry got that credibility back for us because he fought for everything tooth and nail, and he showed to the fans what we would do if we were in that number 8 shirt on the pitch. Jerry Gow personified exactly. And he's not the only player, don't get me wrong. Andy Morrison you could cite as well. They all seem to be Scottish, I don't know what it is. But huge respect for Jerry Gow.
What was the last game you missed then, apart from CSKA Moscow?
So that would have been on the day of the Hillsborough disaster. So it was the 15th of April 1989, and I was attending. We were losing, getting beat 4-0 at Blackburn that day, and I was best man at my brother-in-law's wedding. So I think that was a couple of years it had interrupted at that point. But as I say,
I can't believe that you missed a game. I was asked to be best man
at
my best mate's wedding. City were playing Birmingham at home. It was the last match of the season.
Yes.
And when my mate told me that I was going to miss this game, or that he wanted me to be best man, I said, I can't miss a City game. You know that. You know what I'm cut from. And we fell out a bit. And when he actually then ended up having to rejig his wedding, just for other reasons, nothing to do with me. And it was on the day I could then go, and he didn't ask me to be best man.
No.
Not surprisingly. I mean, I went to his wedding, but I wasn't best man.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at you, Sean.
It's family at the end of the day, and family.
That makes me feel bad.
Well, I was going to say, subsequent to that, I did actually turn down. My friend John Frost was getting married, and he asked me, and I think we were away at Coventry. I think we might have got beat. I can't remember the score, but you know what? It still sits heavy with me because I feel I let him down personally. So it does weigh heavy, you know, regardless of what people say. And I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity to have great employment wherever I've been in the main, a wife that supports me beyond belief. You know Jane well, and she's done the hard mile with us, as you know, getting into Millwall when we had no tickets and dressing up as Millwall supporters. We'll do whatever it takes to see the game because that's how we're made. And so, it doesn't come without personal sacrifice, and it does sit heavy with me sometimes. So I like to kind of make sure that if I get any compliments that spread evenly, and I class us all in the same boat, whether we do one game or 1,000 games, we all have that common love of the club, the Sky Blue of Manchester, and long may it continue.
Have you ever been ill on a match day?
Yeah, a couple of occasions. It might have been tummy bugs and stuff, but one in particular I remember was getting to Anfield late for an evening game, and I have kind of I've had lower back trouble throughout my life, and might be as a result of driving. I do a lot of driving, but I dragged myself into Anfield that night. I wasn't in fit state to, but I crawled up for the last mile. Couldn't park within it. I got into the game 20 minutes in and what have you, but the pain was worth it because I knew what was at the end of the pain. I knew what we were playing. So
how did we go on in that game?
Got beat 3-0. so again,
I mean, I can relate so much, Sean, to what you're telling, because I remember getting asked to do a game for Club Call. Remember the old Club Call?
Yeah.
And it was a Liverpool-Tottenham game at Anfield on the same night we were away at Torquay. And in the League Cup, and it was a lot of money at the time I was being offered. And I said, no, I'm going to Torquay, City are playing, and they thought I was mad. It ended up being 0-0. I'm sure you were at that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was a terrible game. And after next day they said, I bet you regret it now, don't you? And I said, no, not at all.
New ground ticks off the list. It's what you do, isn't it? Yeah.
And I also went to a game at Norwich. It was the Delia Smith rant game.
Yes, yeah.
And you know, people say they have flu, and it's not. It's a bad cold. I had proper flu.
Yeah.
And I actually commentated that night.
Yeah.
And then when I got back to the hotel, which was a rarity to stop in a hotel because it was a night match, I collapsed in the bed fully clothed and didn't wake up for 14 hours. Because I was that wiped out, but there was no way I was going to miss the game.
No. And as you know, some of my friends, Wilke, Darren, Oz, all the usual, Phil Dooley, all the usual crew, Bev, everyone that's travelled with us home and away over the years, they've got similar records. You know, there's only the odd game here and there. So and there's so many people. I think we've got a hardcore of supporters, and I think we've got the oldest fan base, I believe, of all the Premiership clubs that have watched the team consistently over 20-25 years. So we have actually got that core, regardless of all the empty seats and everything that they throw at us. We've actually got the loyalist punch in all of them. So it's quite ironic, really, that we get stick for empty seats.
What in this sequence of 30 years, remember, home and away? If you're just joining us now for this podcast, why would you join halfway through anyway? which has been the worst game? Which has been the game that you thought, blimey, I put myself out, and then it's a terrible game?
Oh, what a good question that is. I take derby defeats very, very hard, and we've had plenty of them in the 30 years, so I enjoy the ones that we have now when we win even more as a result of that. Probably, I would say we lost 5-0 at Old Trafford on a Thursday night, I think, and Chelsea got 3 for them that night. And not only was it a bad night on the pitch, the grief we got after the game, getting back to Manchester, was horrendous. So like I say, and so I always remind City fans, whenever they say, "Oh, United can do us a favour," well, they never did us any. when they were riding high and winning everything before them, they had no kind of room in their lives for poor little Manchester City. Well, I beg to differ now. It's changed somewhat, hasn't it?
I've got a story about that 5-0, but I won't tell you today. But in terms of the best, I think I know what will be the best. And the reason I want to introduce it and not ask you straight out, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that we sat down with your Jane in your house, and we did a documentary while I was at the BBC.
With the late Rebecca Stevenson, R.I.P. Rebecca, lovely girl.
Yeah, she was a fantastic person, and she was a
United
fan. And the two of you so eloquently told the story of the year that we won the league in 2012,
correct,
focusing on Aguero and that moment, but also the whole season, really. I'm assuming that was the greatest of these last 30 years games.
It has to be, but from a personal point of view, in terms of what defines me as a Manchester City supporter, I have to say Dennis Stewart's overhead kick in 1976, because it's not only me that says that as well. You'll speak to a lot more people from our generation that were fortunate enough to be there, because I would say in 76 there wasn't many 11-year-old children in the crowd. It was a case of a man-dominated sport, and for the children to go on an adult ticket, although they did junior tickets, I would imagine if you did a cross-section of how many children were in the crowd that day, there'd have been the fortunate few, and I was one of the fortunate few that was in. And I saw something that day that I replay in my head every day, and I will do for the rest of my life. The greatest goal I've ever seen with these pair of eyes, though. I'm fortunate to have.
Far be it for me to correct you, Sean, but that wasn't in the 30 years that we're talking about.
Oh, it wasn't. Yeah, sorry about that. I got carried away then.
And that's definitely a moment I'll remember too.
Absolutely.
But within this 30 years...
Yeah, it's got to be Sergio's. Got to be Sergio's, hasn't it? Because, I mean, we will never better that in our lifetime, really.
So just tell us, I mean... I don't have copyright on that documentary, so unfortunately now I've left the BBC. Unless the BBC play it, I can never let people hear it again, and it's one of the things I'm the most proud of. So you can recreate a bit of that. So just tell us on the day. Your story.
So what did I do on the day? So I got down to the ground very, very early. I remember in City Square, one of the guests